The European Union, of course, was set up to take advantage of the United States, to attack our piggy bank, right? And you know what? We can't let that happen.
President Trump has taken on the European Union at recent rallies, and now we are learning the president's issues with the EU also came up in a private meeting with the French President Emmanuel Macron. CNN political analyst Josh Rogin broke this story for the Washington Post and joins us now. Josh, my understanding is he suggested to Macron that France leave the European Union, correct? Is that what happened?
That's right. In a private meeting, they're talking about trade, and President Trump suggests that if France leaves the European Union, he'll give them a better deal on trade than the European Union gets with the United States. It's, in one interpretation, an offhand comment. In another interpretation, a shocking proposal that would destroy an alliance of American allies and a statement against U.S. government policy. You know, it fits into a pattern of President Trump saying really, unconventional things about U.S. alliances. Taken in isolation, it could be sort of written off as a joke or a suggestion. But in the context of what's going on in the U.S.-Europe relationship, it actually fits a pattern that is shocking allies and destabilizing.
It can't be taken in isolation because there have been reports just within the last few days that he was running down NATO, suggesting in his words that NATO is as bad as NAFTA. And then just this morning, Josh, we're getting reporting from Axios that he was suggesting that the United States pull out of the WTO, the World Trade Organization. Let me just read you that quote. He's threatening to withdraw 100 times. It would totally screw us as a country, said one source who's discussed the subject with Trump. The source added that Trump has frequently told advisors, quote, we always get effed by them, the WTO. I don't know why we're in it. The WTO is designed by the rest of the world to screw the United States. So again, just within the last week, you're reporting that the president wants out, or at least talks about wanting out of the WTO, runs down NATO.
Right. So we're talking about the pillars of the liberal international world order that the United States and Europe have just spent 8 decades building, the cornerstone of peace and stability in the world, the alliance that will allow us to confront the coming strategic challenges of Russia and China. And Trump very basically doesn't agree with this structure, despite the fact that his aides tell him it's a good idea, despite the fact that he knows that this would be hugely disruptive if he pulled the U.S. out of any of these organizations. The president just doesn't simply believe that these are delivering for the United States. Now, his administration has an explanation that he's just trying to reform the world order, not dismantle it, but the effect on our allies is real. And I spent a week in Europe, and let me tell you, they're freaked out, and they don't understand why the president doesn't understand the value of the alliances and what they bring to the table. And when your allies are freaked out and your enemies are very happy, you're doing it wrong, okay? That's a diplomatic fail. And heading into the NATO summit and his meeting with Russia, there's no telling what other suggestions he might bring up. And that has everybody really
and use the phrase world order right there. We are talking about institutions that have helped keep this world together for decades, but also, you noted correctly, the president, to an extent, ran against them. The president, to an extent, has always said he doesn't like them. The question is, do you believe he fundamentally understands the role that they have played in the world over the last several decades?
Yeah, it's clear that his advisors have been trying to convince him of the value of the liberal international world order, and he's simply not convinced. He says all the time to people who work for him, I just don't simply agree with the arguments. It's also a glaring sort of fact that all of these positions track exactly with the opinions of Russian President Vladimir Putin. We don't know why the president agrees with Putin on all of these things. I'm not going to speculate on that, but it's either a huge coincidence or there's some good reason that all of these strategic moves feed Russian national security interests and align the president with Putin's personal views. That's a huge strategic windfall for Russia. That's a huge blow to our allies. The effects of that are felt not only in diplomacy, but also in America's relations with all of these countries. So, that's a problem. Now, in the first year, you could have said, well, his national security cabinet kept him pretty much, on track. They managed him. He didn't do anything too shocking. Some shocking things like pulling out of Paris, etc. But basically, the guardrails held. In the second year, President Trump is unleashed. He's going rogue. He's going Trump. Okay, and now nobody knows if people like Mike Pompeo, Mattis, Kelly, as long as he stays around, are going to be able to keep the president from succumbing to his worst instincts with huge implications for the U.S. and the international
And again,
security.
remember the president meeting with Vladimir Putin in the days after he meets with America's oldest allies in the NATO alliance. Josh Rogin,
Stay
great
tuned.
to have you here with us. Appreciate it.
Anytime.